the one and only Dominique Wilkins, who's good enough to join us. Dominique, it's Musa Maggie in New York. Thank you so much for the time today.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. And let's start here because there's a lot of X's and O's we want to ask you about and a lot of basketball. But honestly, didn't see it coming from Clint Capela, Dominique, that he was going to be the one to talk some trash and say that the Knicks are going to be sent home packing tonight. Do you think that Clint Capela, is that going to have any impact on tonight's game, what he had to say?
Well, I'm sure it is. Guys, get a little edgy. This time of year, tempers flare. You're going to have emotions up high. Guys going to say some things, but that's a part of competing. When you're confident in yourself and you think that things are going to turn out in your favor. Some people speak out about it, some people don't. But it definitely is going to raise the attention in Madison Square Garden, no question about that.
Dominique, on that, would you have been in favor of that, having a teammate speak as confidently as Capela did yesterday?
Well, I have no problem with a guy speaking confidently. You just gotta, you got to pick your spots, pick your battles, and stuff like that. But I have no problem with a guy being confident, because that's how great players are made, and that's how these games are won, off of that type of confidence. But, definitely add sparks to the fire.
No doubt about that. This has turned into a pretty good rivalry, actually, with the chance at Madison Square Garden, with the fact that, these games have gotten a little chippy. But the fact of the matter is the Hawks have had their way with the Knicks, Dominique, the last two games. What have the Hawks been doing, in your mind, to Julius Randle to really mute him in this series?
Well, I think they've taken him out of his comfort zone. Every possession has been extremely hard for Randle, and that's a credit to the Hawks' defense and the adjustments that they have made. I don't think the Knicks have made the type of adjustments that the Hawks have made, and I think that's the difference in this series. When you get to playoff basketball, it's all about adjustments. You can't play the same way in the regular season that you're going to play in the playoffs because every possession is important.
Dominique, with that being said, what do you think the biggest thing that Nate McMillan has done here for Atlanta, which has which has led to the Hawks leading the series 3-1?
Man, it's just his mentality, the way he coaches, his beliefs in defense and different strategies as far as X and O's. I think he's an excellent coach at really illustrating and orchestrating how he's going to play against certain teams. And it didn't just start with the Knicks. It's been since, All-Star break, he has put together a mentality on his team that they believe that they can win each and every night, especially when you got all your troops healthy and ready to go. It makes it a little easier, too.
Dominique, we here obviously in New York, we're surprised the Hawks are leading this series 3-1, and really how easily they've handled the Knicks here through the first 4 games. Has it surprised you being around this Hawk team with the way that they've raised their game and the fact that they've dominated here and through the first 4 games?
No surprises at all. I'm not surprised, though. We knew what we had early on. It's just finding the right fit and the right chemistry that works. And Nate McMillan, since he's taken over, has brought all of that and then some.
Dominique Wilkins is our guest, of course, the Hall of Famer and legend. He's an analyst for Hawks TV for Fox Sports and Fox Sports Southeast. And obviously, Trae Young has really, emerged. You guys knew all about him. NBA fans know all about him. But, it's different when you get on that playoff stage and you're able to rise to the occasion. It really puts you in a different stratosphere. Is there a player that you compare him to, Dominique, and someone that he reminds you of? Maybe someone you played against, with, or someone else in the league?
I don't, and I'm big on, guys building their own personality. I don't believe in a lot of comparisons and that sort of thing. I think Trae Young is his own style, his own brand, and believe me, the New York Knicks know about him. Well, they're trying to find ways to slow this guy down. I think, look, Trae is a very unique player, man, and that you see, especially a guy his size, to do the things that he does each and every night. And the competition level that he plays at and the confidence he has in himself, you don't see guys like that too often. And he's one of those guys that come around every once in a while.
Dominique, do you think Trae thrives off this kind of villain, being the guy that's the chance, whether you agree with him or not, but being this kind of villain figure? Do you think he thrives off of that?
Absolutely, he does. He loves it. He loves it. I mean, that's what great players do. That type of environment, we embrace it. I've seen that through my whole career, and all it does is take me to another level. And that's and that's what people understand. That's a part of competition. That's a part of competing that you embrace. The only thing I don't like is when fans really take it upon themselves, and from a physical standpoint, and you violate guys, and you can't do that. But as far as the vulgarities and all that, hey, bring it. I love it. And he does too.
Dominique, just to pause on that for a second, because we've been having a lot of conversations about fan behavior, and at times it's just been really reprehensible. It's been a small number of people, but obviously it's totally crossed the line. The question I think that I'm wrestling with, and Moose too, is whether or not it's worse now, or it's gotten any worse. We've seen a couple instances back to back, but
Right.
from your playing days, fans were acting out forever. Do you think it's gotten worse?
Well, I think it got worse from how, as far as throwing stuff at players and spitting on a player. I mean, you can't. Man, you know what? Back in our era, that would have been a major fight if you spit on someone. And so, fans, look, you're supposed to support your team and all those different things, but you cannot touch players or violate them in that way. And I thought it was despicable the way Trae was treated. Guys like Westbrook. And you can't do that. I understand that you get upset because maybe you don't win the game, but that don't give you a right to do that kind of stuff. And that rarely ever happened back in nowadays to that level. But it's just, that's uncalled for.
Yeah, it certainly is, Dominique. Why do you think we've seen so many instances of it in here a short amount of time in the postseason?
Man, sometimes you give people too much rope, and they take advantage of it, man. And I just think that they think they can. They're entitled to act out and do things that they want, and you can't, because there's repercussions to your actions. Now, you get thrown out or arrested, and you can't come back into those venues anymore. And you know what? I have no sympathy for people who do that because it's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's sending the message that you're hoping you're deterring the next person from, and maybe make them think twice before they would do something like that. Kevin Durant had an interesting quote on it. He was like, people have to grow up and realize that it's not like we're animals. That's what he said. Like we're human beings who are out here playing. Did you ever felt that way, like dehumanized when you were playing?
He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You got to treat people like him. Look, back when we played, there's guys that yelled out things, and especially in Detroit and Boston, but it wasn't to the level that you felt threatened. It was just a lot of emotion in the building. I've never felt that. I've never felt like what Trae witnessed from the fans, or like Westbrook, somebody pouring stuff on your popcorn or whatever it may be. I mean, like Durant said, you got to grow up because the NBA is not having it. And I'm really proud of them how they've stepped up and handled these situations. There's a no-tolerance policy that they have, and they should.
We're talking to Dominique Wilkins, Hall of Famer, Hawks TV for Fox Sports South and Southeast, legendary NBA player. Dominique, I know you don't want to help him because your Hawks are playing the Knicks tonight, but we've seen Randall kind of redefine himself. Eastern Conference All-Star, most improved player. He struggled here through the first 4 games. How difficult is it, for a player that really transformed himself in this year? What bit of advice would you have for Randall if you could give him some going into a Game 5 tonight where it has not come as easy as it did in the regular season?
Well, I'm not going to give him any advice, but because I want my Hawks to go on and take care of business in New York. But what? This is the thing about great players, is that great players always find a way to be effective and help you have a positive outcome. But it still shows that you're still growing as a player. And that's the thing that he has to continue to get better at. Yeah, he's had a monster year, but the Hawks have built that wall in front of him where he can't get over or around. So now he has to defer to other people to do some of the things that he done all year.
Dominique, we're all scratching our heads about what kind of adjustments. You mentioned that, Nate McMillan has made the adjustments in this series. Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks have not. We're all scratching our heads about what this is going to look like tonight and how the Knicks could change up anything. What are you expecting to see from the Knicks?
Well, one of the things that I was surprised that they didn't trap Trae as much. And Trae is one of those guys, if you don't trap him off of pick and rolls, you can forget it. He's going to embarrass you. He's going to make you pay for it. And, he's a very smart young player that finds, again, when you talk about players finding a way to beat you, that's what he has done. That's what he's grown into. And so he got to continue to do more of the same. He doesn't have to do anything different.
Nothing different tonight from Trae Young. You want to see the outside shooters. And, Dominique, I saw an NBA writer, I forgot who it was, I'd give him credit, comparing the Atlanta Hawks to kind of the early rise of the Golden State Warriors. When you look at what Trae Young is, having the three-point shooters on the outside, that the Hawks are kind of on the precipice of being really a team in the Eastern Conference that's going to be a team to be reckoned with here moving forward. What about this group here, coming in? They clearly heard the Knicks were more physical. They haven't gotten pushed around. They lost all 3 games to the Knicks in the regular season. It looks like this team had a massive chip on their shoulder coming into the series against New York.
You know what? Regular season is regular season. Playoffs is a different animal. But the Hawks, even the games they lost against the Knicks, these games were tough games. And so what I think the Hawks have to continue to do is build their personality and their culture or how they like to play. And the Knicks, unfortunately for them, they haven't figured out how to slow the Hawks down. Hawks have too many weapons for New York, in my opinion. So until they can slow those other guys down, there's no way I think they can beat them. Because if Trae continues to play, which he will, and Capela, who's been our rim protector, and John Collins, we continue to play that way, it's going to be very difficult for them to beat us.
No doubt about that. Just a few more minutes here with Dominique Wilkins, the Hall of Famer. So, Dominique, just switching over, obviously the Knicks-Hawks game tonight is top of mind, and everyone is looking forward to it, especially here in New York and Atlanta. But you just saw the Brooklyn Nets, take care of the Boston Celtics last night, finishing up that series. So now it's going to be Brooklyn and the Milwaukee Bucks. That's going to be an unbelievable series. Who are you picking in that series?
That's a great question. I think that series, I would probably lean from a defensive standpoint more towards Milwaukee, because if Brooklyn doesn't play consistent defense against them, I think Milwaukee will beat them.
Dominique, one last one for me, and because I got to reminisce, because I haven't had a chance to ever interview you. And, growing up, one of my great memories as a young basketball fan was the duel that you had with Larry, 88, Hawks, Celtics, Game 7, you dropping 47, Bird at 34. What about that great duel that you had against Larry? Is there anything specifically? I know your team came out on the losing end, but that's one of the great individual performances that we've seen in playoff history up there at the old Boston Garden.
It really was. It was probably one of the greatest seventh games ever, where you had two guys who matched each other's will, and it came down to the last bucket. When you're talking about an environment that was hostile, hot, the electricity left in the building, it was no better platform for me to play on. And he felt the same way. I remember coming out of the locker room because Bird made the prediction after Game 6. Atlanta blew the opportunity, I'm guaranteed to win. This is headline. So I remember coming out of the locker room in Boston, and I stopped in the hallway, and I said to my teammates, we're going to win this bleep game. If you ain't ready to fight, you ain't ready to go to war, don't come out. So whoever guarding me going to have a long night. Unfortunately, Bird was saying the same thing to his teammates, so it set up for one of the greatest shootouts ever.
Did anyone talk trash better than Bird? We started off this interview talking about Clint Capela saying he was sending the Knicks packing. That's pretty tame compared to what Bird used to say.
Listen, they had no idea the trash Bird talk. And this is seventh game, and a guy talking trash. That's why I say I have no problem with a guy being confident and believing in his team and in his abilities, because I've seen it. I've seen guys do it in the playoffs. Chuck Person, one of the biggest trash talkers ever. He didn't care if he was down 40. He's still going to talk trash. So I've been on that end.
Well, Dominique, that Game 7, I mean, your performance that game was one of the great individual, in a losing effort, one of the great individual playoff performances the NBA's ever seen. I mean, it was just an unbelievable 47 that you dropped that game.
And you're talking about a Boston team that was a great defensive team. And so they threw everything because Bird never guarded me that series. They would put Kevin McHale on me. The bigger guy thought that he would slow me down, he could stretch me out on the floor, but it played to my advantage. I said, he's a 7-footer trying to guard me. They could try to build this wall. And my thing was, how do I beat the double team? How do I beat the triple team? Well, you go before they get there. And I've always believed if I can get the ball and not wait and go and do my thing, the double team was too late. And that's the reason why I felt like I had a wonderful night, because I had a counter to their counter.
Yeah, and you certainly did. And Dominique, if it's not that game, it's the dunk contest was never the same after you and Jordan at the old Chicago Stadium. I mean, that dunk contest between you and Michael, I mean, when you think about defining dunk contest, you hop on YouTube, you watch that. You and Michael put on an absolute show in that dunk contest.
Well, you know what? When you have two marquee players, two great players going head-to-head, first of all, you set an atmosphere, you set electricity in the building that, is just unheard of. And so you had Michael and I who competed, who wanted to know who the best was. I don't think guys today want to know who the best it really is. And so we competed not for ourselves, we competed for the fans. And if you look at that dunk contest and the fact that they are talking about it 30-some years later, let you know one thing. It's the greatest dunk contest ever.
It is, Dominique, no doubt.
That's interesting, though. You don't think players today are concerned about whether or not they're the best, about proving that to each other?
Nah, not with the dunk contest, I don't think.
Oh, not with the dunk
contest.
Because,
again, I think guys feel like if you lose, it will screw with your legacy somewhat. And it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. I've lost. Look, I did 5 dunk contests. I won 4. I just got credit for 2, but that's another story. But the fact that they're talking about it all these years later, doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's the show that you display on the floor for the fans that make them appreciate who you are.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Absolutely. And we are
Dominique,
still talking about it 30 years later.
We are. It is the greatest dunk contest ever. There's no doubt. I mean, it really is. Hey, Dominique, we appreciate it. Really great last 15, 18 minutes you gave the program. We continued success, and not tonight for your Hawks, all right, though? Let the Knicks get to a Game 6, all right?
Hey, I'm going to say one thing, guys. We got to have it. Got to have it, guys. Got to have it.
Oh, man. I suddenly am not still feeling so great about the Knicks. No, Dominique, the Hall of Famer, thank you so much. We'll hopefully talk with you again soon. Be well.
All right, guys. My pleasure.